Namaste and a very good evening to all of you. I welcome you to my channel, The Outlier. My name is Mithun. In today's video, I'll be talking about a very fascinating story about when art meets artificial intelligence. Even before I proceed to talk about this particular topic, may I request you to subscribe to my channel, also like and share my videos. Let me show you a portrait. As you can see here, this is the portrait of a person. I have picked up this particular image from the Christie's.com. So full credit for this particular website for making this image available. Let me show you another portrait of the same person. You can see here, this is another portrait. I've got two questions for my audience. One is, what is the name of the person in the portrait? The second question that I have is, who created this portrait? Well, this brings me to a very interesting story which I'd like to tell you. The story is about the portrait of Edmund Bellamy. Back in 2018, an artwork unlike any other was sold for a staggering $432,500 at Christie's in New York. It wasn't painted by a human artist. You heard me right. It wasn't painted by any human artist, nor was it a photograph or a sculpture. It was a portrait created entirely by a machine learning algorithm known as Generative Adversarial Network, or GAN for short. The artwork, titled Portrait of Edmund Bellamy, was created by a Paris-based art collective known as Obvious. They used a GAN to generate the portrait, which was then printed onto a canvas and framed like any other traditional artwork. The portrait itself is of a man with a faint smile, looking off to the side with a somewhat sad expression. He appears to be wearing clothing from the 17th or the 18th century with a high-collared shirt and a dark jacket. What is truly remarkable about this artwork, however, is the process that went into creating it. A GAN works by pitting two neural networks against each other, one generating images and the other trying to determine whether these images are real or fake. Over time, the generator network learns to create more and more realistic images, while the discriminator network becomes better at identifying fake images. Obvious fed their GAN with thousands of images of portraits from the 14th to the 20th centuries, along with some additional information about the style and the composition of those portraits. The GAN that went to work generating its own portraits based on that input. The result was a portrait that looks like it could have been painted by a human artist. This definitely has not been painted by a human artist. This was painted by a machine learning algorithm. This portrait has a very unique style of its own. Some have compared this particular portrait to works by the old masters, while others have noted the eerie, almost uncanny valley-like quality of the image. Regardless of how one feels about the aesthetics of the portrait, there is no denying that Portrait of Edmund Bellamy represents a major breakthrough in the field of artificial intelligence and art. It raises important questions about what it means to create art and whether machines can truly be considered artists in their own right. I'd like to ask this question again. Can machines be truly considered artists in their own right? So there you have it. This is a fascinating story about the portrait of Edmund Bellamy, a groundbreaking artwork created by a machine learning algorithm. This brings me to the agenda of today's video. I've got 6 points in this video. The first point that I'll be covering would be the introduction to GANs. Secondly, I'll be talking about applications of GANs. Thirdly, I'll be talking about training GANs. The fourth point would be to talk about the advantages of using GANs. Fifthly, the limitations of GANs. And finally, we will be concluding about generative adversarial network. For those of us who are completely new to the world of GAN, let me start by telling you more about GAN. I'd like to start from the basics. What are GANs? GAN stands for Generative Adversarial Network. I repeat, GAN stands for Generative Adversarial Network, which is a type of artificial neural network architecture which is used in machine learning. Secondly, GANs consist of two neural networks, a generator and a discriminator. The generator creates new data samples while the discriminator evaluates their authenticity. I'll repeat this. The generator, as the name itself suggests, generates new data samples while the discriminator evaluates their authenticity. The third important point here is GANs use a game theory approach where the generator and the discriminator compete against each other in a zero-sum game to improve the quality of the generated samples. Let me move on to the fourth point here. GANs have a wide range of applications, including image synthesis, text generation, and music composition. GANs have been an active area of research since their introduction in 2014 and have undergone many improvements to overcome their limitations such as mode collapse and instability. With this small introduction to GANs, let's now proceed to talk about the applications of GANs. There are many different applications of GANs. I'll be highlighting 6 important applications of GANs. One of the first important application of GANs is image synthesis. GANs can generate realistic images of objects, people, or landscapes that do not exist in reality. I'd like to repeat this. When we talk about image synthesis, GANs can generate realistic images of objects or people or landscapes that do not exist in reality. These images may just be a figment of your imagination. For example, GANs can generate images of imaginary characters or simulate the appearance of a person at different ages. Let's now talk about the second application of GAN, which is style transfer. GANs can transfer the style of one image to another, creating a new image that has the content of the one image and the style of another. For example, a GAN can transfer the style of a painting to a photograph. Let's now talk about the third point, which is video prediction, which is one of the most important applications of GAN. GANs can generate future frames of a video given the preceding frames. Let me repeat this. GANs can generate future frames of a video given the preceding frames. For example, GANs can be used to predict the next few frames of a security camera footage or a video game. Let me now talk about the fourth application, which is data augmentation. GANs can be used to augment datasets by generating new samples. Let me repeat. GANs can be used to augment datasets by generating new samples. This can help overcome the problem of limited training data for machine learning algorithms. So all of you data scientists who have at one or the other stage of your career complained of lack of data, especially limited training data for your machine learning algorithm, can use the power of GANs, because GANs can be used to augment the data set by generating new samples. Let me give you an example. GANs can generate additional images of rare medical conditions to improve the accuracy of disease diagnosis. Let me now talk about the fifth point, text generation. GANs can generate coherent and realistic text based on a given input. I'll repeat. GANs can generate coherent and realistic text based on a given input. For example, GANs can generate a new article or articles or stories in the style of a particular author or in a specific genre. So if you want a story of your favorite author, GANs can do that. It can reproduce and give you a new story in the same style as that of your favorite author. Let me now talk about the sixth important application of GAN, which is anomaly detection. GANs can be trained to detect anomalies or outliers in the data. This has applications in fields such as fraud detection, cybersecurity, and medical diagnosis. So these are the 6 important applications of GANs: image synthesis, style transfer, video prediction, data augmentation, text generation, and anomaly detection. Let's now talk about training a GAN network. How do you train a generative and adversarial network? It is not so simple. I'd like to draw your attention to 5 important points here. The training of GANs is an iterative process. I repeat, the training of GANs is an iterative process in which the generator and discriminator networks are trained alternatively. The generator network generates fake samples that are fed to a discriminator network along with real samples. The discriminator network then classifies these samples as real or fake. Thirdly, the generator network is updated based on the feedback from the discriminator network. The objective is to generate samples that are indistinguishable from real samples. Let me now talk about the fourth point. The discriminator network is updated based on the feedback from both the real and generated samples. The objective is to correctly classify the real and generated samples. Fifthly, GANs are difficult to train. I repeat, GANs are difficult to train because of the instability and mode collapse issues. These issues can be addressed by using techniques such as patch normalization, layer-wise learning, and gradient penalty. Additionally, monitoring the loss functions and visual inspection of generated samples can help in identifying and addressing any issues during training. Now, let's talk about some of the advantages of building a GAN model. There are many advantages of building a GAN network. The first and the most important advantage is realistic data generation. I repeat, realistic data generation. What do I mean when I say realistic data generation? GANs can generate high quality realistic data samples that resemble the original data distribution. I'll repeat, GANs can generate high quality realistic data samples that resemble the original data distribution. This makes them useful for generating new data for various applications. Let's talk about the second point. When you're building a GAN, there is no need for labeled data. I'll repeat, there is no need for a labeled data when you're building a GAN. GANs can generate synthetic data samples without the need for labeled data. This is particularly useful in cases where obtaining labeled data is difficult or expensive. Let me now draw your attention to the third important application, which is that GANs have a variety of applications. GANs can be used for a variety of applications, including image synthesis, video prediction, text generation, and data augmentation. The fourth point, GANs have a wide range of applications, particularly in creative outputs. GANs can be used to generate creative and artistic outputs such as music and artwork that can be used for entertainment or commercial purposes. Let's now proceed to the last application, which is continual improvement. GANs have undergone continual improvement since their introduction in the year 2014. As a result, they have become more stable, more robust, and highly effective, making them a promising tool for a wide range of applications in the future. Every modeling technique has its own limitations. Let me now proceed to talk about the limitations of GANs. The first and the foremost important limitation of GAN is instability. I repeat, instability. GANs are known for being unstable during training, which can make it difficult to generate high quality samples. I repeat, GANs are known for being unstable during training, which makes it difficult to generate high quality samples. The second important point, and it's a good interview question as well, which is mode collapse. What exactly is this expression, mode collapse? GANs can suffer from mode collapse, which occurs when the generator produces a limited range of outputs, resulting in a lack of diversity in the generated samples. The third point, high computational requirements. GANs require significant computational resources, including high-end GPUs and large amount of memory to train effectively. The fourth point, difficulty of evaluation. It can be difficult to evaluate the performance of GANs as there is no objective measure of the quality of the generated samples. So this is a very important point. There is no objective way in which we can assess the quality of the samples which are generated. Lastly, sensitivity to hyperparameters is another important problem. GANs are highly sensitive to hyperparameters. I repeat, GANs are highly sensitive to hyperparameters such as the learning rate and batch size, which can impact the stability and quality of the generated samples. Finding optimal hyperparameters can be a time-consuming process. So these are some of the challenges or limitations of building a GAN model: instability, mode collapse, high computational requirements, difficulty of evaluation, and sensitivity to hyperparameters. This brings me to the concluding slide. What are the conclusions that we can draw from a GAN? GANs are a very powerful tool for generating realistic data samples for a wide range of applications, including image synthesis, video prediction, and text generation. Second, GANs are a type of deep neural network that consists of two networks. The first, what we call as a generator, and the second, what we call as discriminator, that are trained together in an adversarial manner. Let's talk about the third important point. GANs have several advantages, such as the ability to generate realistic data without the need for labeled data, and their ability to be used for creative purposes such as generating artwork and music. Let's now talk about the fourth point. GANs, like any other technique, have their own limitations, and there are several limitations that a GAN model suffers from. The first most important limitation is instability during training and their sensitivity to hyperparameters. I'll repeat, instability during training and highly sensitive to change of hyperparameters, which can impact the quality of the generated samples. Last but not the least, overall, GANs have shown tremendous potential in the field of deep learning and are likely to continue to be an important tool for data generation and creative applications in the future. However, further research is needed to address the challenges associated with GANs, such as mode collapse and instability during training. In this video, we have seen an introduction to GAN. What exactly do we mean by GAN? What are the different applications of GAN? What is the procedure that we follow while building or while training a GAN model? Nextly, we moved on to the limitations of GAN. And finally, we've looked at the conclusion. Here, in this particular video, especially the first slide, I have used the image from innotechtoday.com. I'll repeat. The first image which I showed in the video, credit has to be given where it is due. So there is a website called as innotechtoday.com with an article titled "This AI can produce stunning images, but is it art?" You can go ahead, you can go and check this out. So that's where I have used the image from. Secondly, I've also used the image from thechristies.com, a collaboration between two artists, one a human and one a machine. With this, I have come to the end of today's video. In today's video, we have looked at GAN and the different points related to GAN. I request you to subscribe to my channel. Also like and share my videos. Thank you very much for watching this particular video. Have a great day ahead.